Welcome to the Irish NFL Show's Week 11 Monday Recap live stream brought to you by QuinnBet. We kicked off Week 11 on Sunday in some style at the Bernabeu on Sunday afternoon for the final International Series game of the season in Madrid. We ended with the Eagles taking the scalp of a second NFC North team in successive weeks as they beat the Lions. Let's start with that game at the Link in Philadelphia. Kieran Boyle. The Eagles didn't need to put up big numbies on offense to beat the Lions, and they weren't allowed to be fair. Lions defensively did just about everything that they would have wanted to do at Lincoln Financial Field to give them a chance. They couldn't capitalize on those chances because the Eagles harassed Jared Goff all day long. And if Jared Goff has the reputation of sometimes being a bit of a house cat, a guy who doesn't like the cold and certainly doesn't like the cold hands of defensive linemen all over him, it was not a day for him.
No, it wasn't. And you could tell straight away from the start of the game. I mean, tough conditions in Philly. I think it was 35-mile-an-hour gusts, and you saw at the start of the game with the kicker. I mean, it was making a right angle, and the Lions aren't used to that, playing in a dome. Even though Detroit can be a cold city, but they're not used to those conditions. Goff is coming out. You can see he kind of looks uncomfortable. And it was a tough go for him yesterday. Running game wasn't really allowed to get going. I mean, Gibbs and Montgomery only had 66 yards combined. Gibbs did a little bit in the air. But I mean, the story for me, I mean, there's a lot of stories with the Eagles. First off, what was telling for me, I mean, A.J. Brown's been chirping all week, complaining about this, that, and the other. You know, it's burning through Sirianni's head. So one of the first plays of the game is a pass to A.J. Brown. Very good catch. And then in typical Philly fashion, for somebody who's been complaining pretty much all week about his position there, telling people to take him off his fantasy team, he gets a standing ovation. And that's Philly for you. A guy that's been complaining and moaning about playing in your city makes a catch, and now is your favorite player. It was more so for me the defense.
It would never happen in New York.
It would never happen in New York. Well, it probably would happen, but we'll get to them later because the stories coming out of East Rutherford are mind-bending to say the least. But for me, I was going to go a different angle, but I mean, for me with the Eagles, it goes back to the defense. I mean, Vic Fangio might have the easiest job in the whole league. I mean, that front four of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and now you add Jalen Phillips in there. I mean, it just suffocated Detroit last night. It didn't let them get anything. I mean, you saw Gibbs and Montgomery couldn't do much on the ground. The air attack couldn't do much either. DeJean has an early interception. Detroit gets the touchdown. We saw the penalty on that play. But
the Eagles must make him feel just like the luckiest gal in the league. Like, you've got other defensive coordinators. You know, Aaron Glenn sees Quinn Williams and Sauce Gardner shipped out. Matt Eberflus has to cope without Micah Parsons. And Howie Roseman says to Vic Fangio, here you go, have another pass rusher just in case you don't have enough. Here's Jalen Phillips' gift wrap for you, a little early Thanksgiving gift for you, my friend.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's. The Eagles are loaded. It's like a broken record. They're loaded all over the place. And the fact that they're able to rely on the defense so much, Jalen Hurts had a typical Jalen Hurts game. I mean, he was 14 of 28, a paltry 135 yards, but they keep winning. I mean, the Eagles are almost like the Chiefs of last year. They're inevitable. You know they're going to win no matter what happens. I mean, they've only combined for 26 points in the last two games, which is, I mean, again, it all goes back to the defense. They're not lighting anything on fire. They're not setting the world on fire. It's not the Saquon show like it was last year. They're just, again, it was Hurts. It was this Hurts touchdown, and it was just relying on the defense. It's cold, windy conditions. We're almost in the end of November. This is the Eagles' time to shine. They're just getting stronger and stronger every week. I knew as soon as the game started with that conditions that the Lions wouldn't have much joy. And it turned to be that way. I mean, they had a couple of chances to, like you said, to make something happen, but the Eagles' march is inevitable. And you know, when you've got somebody like Hurts who can barely be a factor in the game, or even Saquon goes in for a touchdown, and then you just rely on those absolute monsters, and not just the front four, but even the back four as well. Those corners and safeties are as close to locks as possible right now. I'm very scared of this Eagles team. I'd like to see somebody in the NFC put it up to them real big when the weather starts getting a little crappy in December and maybe in January. So we'll see where it goes with this. I mean, the Lions, this is a team that's been averaging 31.4 points, got shut down. Amon-Ra St. Brown had maybe 43 yards, something like that, 49, I think it was. But this is just what it is. The Lions, I mean, I think they have the Giants next week, so we'll talk about them in a little bit. Eagles at Dallas, that's probably another 65, 70-point game in total. But the story for me is the Eagles defense, and it's getting hot at the right time when the weather starts getting cold.
Well, let's maybe park that one for a while until when you say somebody in the NFC to put it up to them. I think the LA Rams are putting their hands up desperately in the background saying, oh yeah, give us another shot. They would love another swing at that one. And we'll see what way that one shapes up when we get to the postseason. We got plenty of football to be played before then, though, Kieran O'Donovan. And to Kieran Boyle's point about the Lions having their chances, I did sympathise somewhat with what Lions coach Dan Campbell was saying after the game when he was quite rueful and saying, man, we had our chances. I mean, it's a one-score game. They went for it 4 times on fourth down, 5 times, sorry, and were turned back every single time by the Eagles. They busted out some good plays, as Kieran Boyle was saying in the passing game. You saw Jahmyr Gibbs show up with a particularly flashy play that put them in good position. We just couldn't convert those opportunities when they needed to. And on a day when the Eagles were pinning their ears back on defense the way they were, you weren't going to get second chances.
Yeah, and that was an interesting stat about going for it on fourth down, because, you know, again, when you're watching it on Red Zone, not on Red Zone, but only seeing the highlights while ago, you kind of went back. I went back over to see, you know, when did they go for it on fourth down? Was it costly? And you know, they went for it on the 50. It wasn't punished, and the Eagles didn't punish. They didn't get it. The Eagles didn't punish. Second time they went for it on the 40. The Eagles got 3 from that. The third, they went for it on 4th and 5 on the opposite 40, not punished again. So like it's not as if it cost them massively in terms of points. What would be a bit startling is the fact that this is a team that when they went for it on 4th last year, you know, they converted a lot more often, and it's the fact that they tried and tried again. I mean, that's the way Dan Campbell is, and I mean, he lives by the sword and dies by the sword. As I said, not hugely costly on the scoreboard, but just the fact that they persisted with it and couldn't convert is probably a little bit startling on their side of things. But the biggest concern I'd have if I was a Lions fan is the fact that Sam Laporta is now on IR. His absence must have been felt last night. I mean, he's a huge outlet. We talk about the importance of tight ends for these you know, multifaceted offensive teams, and with all of the schemes that they can draw.
I'm getting scared because we've now seen 2 NFC North teams lose their tight end threat in consecutive weeks. The Bears have to play the Eagles in a couple of weeks, so we see Colston Loveland join the pile to make it a hat trick. It's not looking good.
Wrapped in cotton wood. I think Cole Kmet had a bit to say as well. He had a decent showing as well this weekend. But yeah, look, from a Lions point of view, look, they're not dead and buried. They're not going anywhere. I don't think their story is over this season. And I mentioned to you a while ago that this NFC North is fast becoming a 3-horse race that could go all the way. But the one thing I'd say about the Lions is they don't, you don't fear them as much as you would have last year. There's something about that air of invincibility that seems to have washed off them a little bit, whether it's Ben Johnson, whether it's just the fact that it's a new season. They've lost some players, they've been banged up. But you do see opportunities, and you do see a team that's not, they're not all that dominant. And Jared Goff showed last night. I mean, he can have these absolute stinkers every now and again. I still believe Jared Goff is a top quality quarterback, but he is, we'll get to Sam Darnold in a while, but Jared Goff is capable of these kind of nights. What was his QBR? It was 9.5, 1 to 100, 14 of 37 for 255 yards. Yeah, so it was just one of those nights for the Lions. The Eagles, sprinkle in a bit of Tank Bigsby as well. You're talking about all these acquisitions, but he had a nice little cameo last night as well. You talk about Howie Roseman and what he's adding to the defense, but he's not afraid on either side of the ball to strengthen this team. But it's just amazing that the Eagles are this year what the Chiefs were last year. They're winning these one-score games that aren't highly entertaining, and they're just hanging around, and you're just worried about what they might become in the postseason.
Which leads us nicely, Kieran Boyle, to the actual Chiefs, who are not the Chiefs of last year when it comes to winning one-score games. They drop another one. That's their 5th this season. They're 0-5 in one-score games, an NFL record 10-0 last year as they went 15-1, took the number 1 seed in the AFC. Not only will they not get the number 1 seed in the AFC, they won't win their division this year. It looks like they're 3.5 games now behind the Broncos, who just can't stop winning one-score games.
Yeah, and the Broncos are they're the 2024 Chiefs. I mean, they've I think in the last 7 games they beat the Eagles by 4, the Jets by 2, the Giants by 1, Texans by 3, Raiders by 3, and the Chiefs by 3. So that's the Chiefs from last year, squeaking out wins. And for a while the Broncos were on the wrong side of those kind of 1 and 2 point games, so they've definitely turned the corner there. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Chiefs' 9-year grip on the AFC West looks like it's in jeopardy. It's strange to say that they're 5-5 because any normal situation or any other team you would write them off and say that's it for them. But we've seen teams in the past kind of squeak in with the wild card. I mean, my Giants in 2012 were dead in the water till that Christmas Eve game when Victor Cruz scored against the Jets. So it's not how you get there; it's just getting in. I'm not writing the Chiefs off just yet.
This brings us back to, I cited that Bill Barnwell ESPN piece last week where he had the Chiefs in the category, as he did the Lions, who we've just discussed, as really dangerous if they make the playoffs. And it's questionable whether they'll make the playoffs or not. But he's written a follow-up piece today, which I thought was really interesting because he takes a deep dive into the numbers and into the analytics. And he says there is virtually no difference between how the Chiefs are playing football this year and last year. In fact, in some areas, they're better. They are 3rd in the league in EPA per play. They're 5th in DVOA. The games that they're winning by a healthy margin of 7.3 points. He says they're on track for more or less 10-11 wins this year, which should see them absolutely fine. And to his point, they're then dangerous if you see them in the playoffs. It's just that they're not getting what they call in the NHL puck luck. They're just not getting the bounce of the ball the way they did last year. And this game is a perfect illustration of that. Last year, they won a 1-score game against the Broncos on a blocked Will Lutz field goal. Chanel blocked the field goal, and they ended up walking off with the win. Didn't get the same luck this year, and they go down.
Right. And those, like I said, all those breaks that went for them last year, they're just not getting them. I mean, like I said, the Chargers laid an absolute egg in Jacksonville yesterday. They are very gettable in this division. So again, 5-5. Once we start to get into Thanksgiving, when the real football starts kicking in, then I'll kind of start focusing in a little bit more on the Chiefs. But I mean, it did look for a minute like there was some vintage Chiefs action going on there. Mahomes found Kelsey. It was very reminiscent of the last, basically the last 10 years. They were getting, he was getting Hollywood Brown involved. Tyquan Thornton's becoming a factor. And you thought it was vintage Chiefs again, but then, Bucker gets the extra point blocked. And then, those things didn't happen to the Chiefs last year. But they were up 19-16, and like I said, last year that would have been a lock the year before. But this Broncos team, almost in spite of their quarterback, Bo Nix is getting a hell of a lot of flack on social media today. I wouldn't go as far as piling on them, but they're not exactly setting the world on fire either. 22 points. They've scraped 30 points a couple of times this year, and again, like the Chiefs, they're winning with their defense. The Broncos
are they the Eagles of the AFC though? They play very conservatively on offense because they don't need to open up the playbook too much because their defense is going to keep them in every single game, and they're just enough to get over the line.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's exactly what it is. They've got a so-so running game right now. I think J.K. Dobbins is out for the season. You're going to rely on the rookie R.J. Harvey. I'm not sure he's ready to carry the load, but you've got a mobile quarterback like Bo Nix. You could say similar style to Jalen Hurts. So yeah, that is a very, very close analogy. So, but again, with the Broncos, they find another way to grind out a win. The Chiefs at 24. They're not great offensively, but they're on an 8-game win streak. Are they peaking too soon in the season? We'll have to wait and see what happens come probably about 5 or 6 weeks time from now. But you were down against the Chiefs. There's not a lot of teams in the league that can come back against the Chiefs. You made it happen. You got that field goal as time expired, and you get the win. It's another kind of Peyton masterclass. Just grinding out wins, not gassing up anybody too much. Kind of talking about the other team and giving them praise. There was a snippet from Trotman talking about criticism for Nix, or social media criticism for Nix, and the team is defending him. I'm sure Peyton is playing some mind games too with that Belichick kind of mind frame. But when you've got a kicker like Lutz who's been clutch this season, and you're able to come back and beat the Chiefs, that's a huge statement. Not just in the division, but in the entire league. You got people kind of raising their eyes now at the Broncos because as each week goes by, they keep piling up these wins, and they're 9-2 now. The West is locked up. Where does this go from now? Are they? That's my thing now. Are they going to peak too soon? Are they going to get to 12 and then kind of maybe maybe peak too soon once December comes. So, but again, this is a team that's primed and ready to go. Almost in spite of the quarterback, we'll see what Knicks can bring in the next couple of weeks. But you got to remember the weather's going to start getting colder. The snow games are coming. The ice games are coming. Is he able to run the ball as effectively as other teams can run it? So, but again, credit to where it's due. You've got to win over the Chiefs. Chiefs now 5-5. Let's see what they do. Let's see what the Broncos do.
KOD, it doesn't get much easier for the Chiefs either. They play the Colts next week. Patrick Mahomes in the post-game presser taking a lot of it on himself, saying, I got to do better. He pointed out 2 overthrows where he had Travis Kelce, Tyquan Thornton, I should say, wide open on one play, overthrew him. He had Xavier Worthy on another one. And again, same result. Not the Patrick Mahomes we're used to. I tell you, who is the player that we're used to, or at least that we were used to a couple of years ago, is Travis Kelce. Is lights out again. 9 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's their shining light at the moment. But it's easy to forget. It's about 3 weeks ago we were saying that this is the hottest team in football. So, if any team that can get it
that
right,
is so 3 weeks ago. Don't be calling us some stuff we said 3 weeks. I can't remember what I said in the WhatsApp group 3 minutes ago.
I know, yeah. So I think was it one of the lads he posted a video of me predicting a Seahawks win when they were getting absolutely creamed in the first 5 minutes. That take was only a couple of days old. But look, just on the Broncos very quickly. I think if you go back to the last time Denver won the Super Bowl, it was Brock Osweiler and a shadow of Peyton Manning that led the way, and it was a defensive led effort again. And I don't think they were impressing anyone through the regular season. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl front runner or anything like that. I'd be shocked if they went all the way, but at the same time, stranger things have happened. They are that good on defense. They just are. I mean, they only registered 3 sacks last night, and I think another 4 tackles for loss. But Mahomes was under pressure all night, and he felt that pass rush all night long. And you can talk about missing the long ball, missing passes, but he was seeing shadows all night long. And I mean, even for the best quarterback to ever play the game, he has to that has to make a difference. And it's look, I know I'm going back to the Packers. People talk about the lack of Micah Parsons' stats on paper, but I mean he's there. He's there impacting every play, and so is Nick Bonito and that defensive front for the Broncos. But the Chiefs. Yeah, look, I had another look at their schedule, and I was probably getting a bit ahead of myself. I think I got a bit giddy, thinking, "Oh my God, the Chiefs could actually be out of contention here." But you look at the 6-7 playoff spot. They're well up for grabs. I mean, they've got they're up against the Jags. They're up against the Chargers, who now look extremely vulnerable after that result last night.
If something kills them, though, Kieran, it's. You look at the teams right now that are in playoff contention, including the Chargers and the Jaguars, who we'll get to momentarily. The Chargers, the Jaguars, the Broncos, well, they'll probably win the division, so that's not going to count. But Chargers and Jaguars, there's one other team, which name escapes me right now, who all have the head-to-head over the Bills, all have the head-to-head over the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They've won their games. That could be a problem.
They do have to jump. And the one thing it does do is it makes every game that bit bigger. I mean, the Colts now next week is a huge game again. I think after that, there's a stretch where they really, I get a sense that they're going to take Vegas. They're going to, I think, looking at the Chargers, it's hard to see the Chargers getting past the Chiefs twice in the season, and they'll have a revenge game against Denver as well. I feel like the Chiefs are going to go on a run. It's just how much wiggle room have they left themselves, and the Colts is an absolute huge game next week. Based on this weekend, it's not a given that they come away with a win in that game.
Kieran Boyle, if there was a nobody knows nothing game over the weekend, it was Chargers, Jaguars. The Chargers, after putting the Steelers on their asses, you thought, well, they're getting hot right now. They look great. The Jaguars coughed up in a major way against the Texans, absolutely wet the bed in the fourth quarter, and then they just go and lay a beat down on Justin Herbert, and the Chargers just beat them every which way.
Yeah, I mean, if anything tells you what's wacky about the league this year, it's this game. I mean, there's a lot of nervous people in the area this week with the Jags coming in based on what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. But I mean, that was an absolute beatdown. It was a huge turnaround performance from the Jags from last week. And I think Cohen was quoted as saying they played better pissed off. They better be pissed off every single game or every practice from now till the end of the season, because if they're going to play like that pissed off, then I think a lot of teams are going to be taking notice. The credit for this has got to go to Cohen and maybe to a lesser extent Campanile, the D coordinator, because I mean the Chargers weren't even allowed to breathe in that game. The Jags knew that they got to beat up LT and right tackle, so they knew that Herbert were there for the grabs. And that's really what happened. I mean, there was no opportunity. Before you could blink, the Jags were up 14 nothing, I think it was. And then they just kept running the ball. There was no need to do anything crazy with Lawrence. 14-22, 153 yards. All you have to do is give it to Etienne and Tootin. They combined for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's the game. Then you rely on the defense to do what they need to do, which is what they did. They stepped up, and it was
Tootin's another one of these stud running backs. There's lots of them peppered around the league. This was a good running back class. You got your Corey, Krosky, Merritt, you got Tootin, you got Ashton Genty, of course. There's a lot of good halfbacks and fullbacks dotted around the field from that draft.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, I mean, I think Krosky Merritt was the 6th rounder. These guys are coming out of the later rounds. There's gems out there. I mean,
a year after a whole bunch of running backs got paid, and we were saying, "Oh, it's all changed. It's gone right back to the way it was." Turns out you can get value anywhere in the draft.
You can get value anywhere. Tuesday and Wednesday they have the MAC, which is on over here, which is basically Mid-Atlantic teams. So you got players who weren't quite good enough for Bama, or maybe the grades weren't quite good enough, and they're lighting it up in Ohio and Indiana, places that people don't look for quality players. But this is where these players are coming from. These are 6, 7 rounders from places like Western Michigan, Toledo, Akron, just hard scrabble players looking for that chance. And that's what they're doing. You see it with Krosky Merritt. We've seen it with Tracy, who was a wide receiver, turned running back, and with Tootin. I mean, when he combined, I always say if Etienne goes for 100 yards, the Jags win. Well, he did combine with Tootin, 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was a complete mirror image of what happened last year. Last week in Houston, there was no collapse. There was no tension. I mean, they took the air out of the game straight away, which is what they needed, because nobody in Jacksonville wants another squeaky game like that last week. They wanted to put this one to bed early. There's a lot of footage of Campanile celebrating in the tunnel afterwards. They needed this game, and you could see how elated Cohen was afterwards, because the whole season was on the line. I mean, 5-5 is not doing it right now with the power of the AFC. So to go 6-4, to go to the Cards next week. I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen in Arizona next week? I mean, they could get smoked by 30 points. We don't know. But for right now, it makes everybody in Duval feel a lot more comfortable. The Jags dominated every part of the game. The Chargers were not a factor at all. I mean, Herbert had 0 yards in the second half. If that was Trevor Lawrence, the internet would have melted down. But because everyone knows that Herbert's missing his left tackle and his right tackle, he's getting a pass. But if that happened to Lawrence on top of what happened last week, he might have been run out of town this week. There's still, despite the win and the dominant performance, there's a massive question mark over Lawrence and his durability and his place in Jacksonville going forward. So it feels good this week for Jags fans. People are much happier in the area. There's a lot of home games coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think I'm going to rock up to the Colts game. That should be a good one. So the Jags are still in it. 6-4 feels a lot better than 5-5. But I mean, there's nothing to talk about with the Chargers. They didn't show up at all. Herbert was 10 of 18. I mean, there's nothing to say. They didn't show up at all. It was granted it's a 10 a.m. for them kind of game with a time difference. But I mean, I think Keenan Allen had 53 yards. That was about it. The whole story is the Jags and how they turned it around and how they just killed the game from the start. Put their foot in the throat of the Chargers. Didn't let them up. Got the win. On to the Cardinals next week. Let's see what happens there.
Kieran O'Donovan, AFC North is anyone can beat anyone in any given week type division. We've seen plenty of upended results. Bengals Steelers is one that jumps to mind, although not the Bengals Steelers edition of the weekend when it was very much a one-sided game in which the Steelers dominated. But Ravens Browns in Cleveland was a very entertaining affair. And we finally, in week 11, got our first sighting in regular season action of Shedeur Sanders. And despite what all the naysayers said, he went out there and he played absolutely shite. The naysayers were absolutely right.
Yeah, and you know what? I was doing some notes for the instant reaction as the game went on, and I was thinking, like, there is absolutely no risk in putting Shedeur Sanders out here because they're getting absolutely nothing from Dylan Gabriel. We saw it in London. He was a dink and dunk quarterback that was never going to push the ball down the field. And I said, like, you've got absolutely nothing to lose if you're Stefanski here. You know, there is no lose, because if he goes out and plays absolutely shite, you know, as you said, you're proven right. And if he has a stormer, then you're a genius. So yeah, and he didn't. I mean, he didn't live up to any expectation for anyone that had any hopes that he was going to be anything other than what he was. And it was terrible. But the Broncos defense, again, one of the top defenses in the league. You had Myles Garrett there, you know, another 4 sacks. But he
one of those so he gets to Lamar at one stage, and they're kind of, you know, he wasn't running at him full tilt. He gets to him while Lamar is kind of trapped in the pocket, and he just ragdolled him. Jesus Christ! Like, Lamar Jackson is a big guy.
And I think that was his second sack. And I think on the very next play, I think Lamar threw a pick. So you can't say that those sacks didn't have a psychological effect on Lamar trying to get that ball out quickly. And the Broncos do have the Ravens' number in terms of putting pressure on him. And again, not a huge amount to say on the Ravens in this, except they just left it late. I mean, they hung in there, and eventually, in fairness, they turned the screw. You got you had a Derrick Henry run who again struggled to get into the game, but then he broke off a 70 plus yarder. It was just that quality that told in the end. And I was listening to the commentary, and there was a great point made. It's just Derrick Henry's production is going to be better when Lamar is on the field, because there's just that extra threat. It's that two-headed sword or two-headed monster, whatever you want to call it. Not the most inspiring win for the Ravens, but it's never an easy game against the Browns for Baltimore. And every win every game for the Ravens at the moment is a have to have it, and they've stayed rolling. And the Steelers, despite people waiting for them to completely fall off a cliff, I mean, they kept themselves out ahead. So this is a win that the Ravens had to have, with the Bengals probably dying away in the division. I think their chances are all but up in flames now. So again, it's a two-team division as far as I'm concerned.
I do love some of the stuff that Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, does. That direct snap to Mark Andrews for the go-ahead score, and then it was a 4th and 1, and I guess all they were looking to do was pick up the yard. But it's a lovely play design, complete misdirection. You didn't know what way they were going to go. Completely fooled the Browns, who, as you say, not only one of the best defenses in the league, but the best run defense in the league. They absolutely had to hold their hands up there. They were completely bamboozled. It was just a lovely, lovely play design.
Nice name as well. It was the Hurricane or something like that. I think that was the play call. But again, you've got Mark Andrews.
One of the authorities came to blame for something that he never done.
You going to sing it?
Put in a prison cell, but one time he could have been the champion of the world.
Nice.
With apologies to Bob Dylan and everybody with eardrums. Right, we'll move swiftly on, Kieran Boyle. A point you wanted to make on the Browns defense.
Yeah, quick point. I mean, we all saw what Garrett was doing. There's a guy who was drafted last year who was an absolute monster yesterday. That's Carson Schwarzenegger out of UCLA. While Myles Garrett would get all the plaudits, I mean, he's going to retire with a phenomenal amount of stats. But somebody like Schwarzenegger, drafted out of UCLA, he had a phenomenal performance yesterday. 11 tackles. It's not going to overshadow Myles Garrett's performance, but these are the pieces that the Browns have added. I mean, the Browns right now, we know they've got an anemic offense. They can't get much going. They got Quinshon Judkins, and that's about it. But it's a credit to the team and what Schwartz has done to keep that defense motivated week after week to go up against these juggernauts and keep putting up phenomenal performances, stats, tackles, everything. They're bringing every package, blitz, man zone, the whole thing, despite the fact they're going up week on week against Lamar, against Josh Allen. But they're still staying in these games. I mean, for a long time, like we said, the Browns could have nicked that one, but the defense in Schwarzenegger, I want to people keep an eye on that guy going forward. He's going to be a superstar.
It's a great point, and the Browns have also drafted really well for a team that gets slated every year for what's going wrong, and had the baggage of that Deshaun Watson trade. They gave up so much draft capital, but they've slowly and surely built back a really effective, really young team on both sides of the ball. They have a lot of guys out there playing in their first season, and I think it's a great point, Kieran. These guys could easily on that defense be making business decisions around this time of year and shirking out of tackles and not putting their bodies on the line, but they're absolutely giving it every week, even up against a juggernaut like the Ravens. We'll take a quick break and we'll get to two other juggernauts in the Seahawks and the Rams.
This is Ireland. Rugged, wild, and endlessly captivating. A land shaped by history, where ancient castles whisper stories of the past. Where world-class links golf connects you to breathtaking landscapes. And where centuries of craftsmanship and culture are blended to produce world-class whiskies, savoured as music and laughter fill the air. But every journey with us is about people, place, and authentic experiences you'll never forget. This is more than a trip. It's the Dunes and Drams experience. Discover Ireland with us and make memories that will last a lifetime.
Yeah, that ad from our travel partner, Dunes and Drams. We've got some really exciting news coming up, and we're working on something pretty special with David and the team there. So stay tuned to that one. We turn our attention now to the NFC side, where the Seahawks went down narrowly to the Rams, Kieran Boyle, who right now, going to throw it out there, looked like the best team in football.
Yeah, I mean, that was. We're all Eastbound and Down fans, and this is one of those games that we felt in our plums. I mean, it was just one of those. We knew it was going to be a great one. Two super teams right now.
Is Ashley Schaefer the most quoted man on the Irish NFL show? There's a lot of competition for that role.
Yes, well, probably once a week, if not more. But this was this was the game that everybody was looking forward to. I mean, the Rams have been great. The Seahawks are just a juggernaut. But yeah, I mean, this was everything we wanted it to be. It was a close game. Rams just doing the thing, but the defense, again, like we talk about with the Eagles, this defense is. We talked earlier on about the Rams maybe putting it up to the Eagles. This defense yesterday, I mean, they had Darnold, not to quote an old quote, but see and ghosts. He was spooked out there. That was the Darnold of the Jets uniform yesterday. 4 interceptions. He never got going at all. The Rams D just kept him spinning the entire game. But saying that, I mean, the Seahawks almost pulled it out.
How his teammates, I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry, I should give him the proper shout out. Showed up for him post game, and the play he's put up so far this season. I mean, it had scary echoes of the old Sam Darnold, as you say, but like, he is, to be fair to him, a completely different player. And that Rams defense are just scary on every single level. They're so fast and they're on you out of nowhere. Like a couple of those interceptions, he was just getting nailed as he threw the ball, and it's floating up in the air. The first one to Kinchins, I think that both Kinchins ones were as a player right in his face.
Yeah, I mean, it was his first game with 4 picks since 2019. And it was one of those games where he was just rocked, like you said, from start to finish. 2 picks from Kitchens, 1 from Kobe Durant, and 1 from Darius Williams. It never got going for the Seahawks in any kind of way offensively. But like I said, credit to them. They stayed with it. They almost had the chance to win at the end with the Jason Myers kick. The Seattle road win streak ends. It's their first loss outside of Seattle since September of 24, I think. But again, it's 2 juggernauts going at it, and I'm sure. I mean, we were saying in the chat yesterday, I'm 99% sure that we're going to see them in January at either one of those stadiums. Just trading slugs and just going at it like 2 heavyweights. Decent game from the Rams offensively. I mean, Kyron Williams, again, I talk about ETN all the time with the Jags. If Kyron Williams goes 100 yards and a touchdown, you can probably guarantee a win. Puka at 75. Adams pitched in as well. But I mean,
you have about 43 tight ends who can catch passes as well.
Yeah, and bringing that point up, I mean, there's a lot of talk this year, more than any other, of the 12 personnel, the 13 personnel. The Rams have been using that to a phenomenal extent. They're just putting in dudes that we haven't heard before, and even the Seahawks as well. Putting in, I mean, AJ Barner, who knew who he was this time last year. So I mean, they're bringing all these different packages. Both teams are loaded offensively, but it was almost like a war of attrition yesterday. Once those picks started happening, the Seahawks, their scoring opportunities went down and down. There wasn't that furious scramble. I mean, we've seen punts before, but that punt towards the end of the game was just, I mean, that's a once in a season, once in a career kind of punt that put them all the way back. But credit, they moved the ball and they almost got the opportunity to get that long field goal. I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen, but it's just, I mean, both defenses came to play. We talk about the offenses all the time, but both those defenses came to play too. I mean, just heavyweight warriors just going at it, and they're going to see each other again this season. I think they're going to see each other again in the playoffs. Smith and Jigba continues his consistency. First player in the Super Bowl era to have 75 receiving yards in each of his first 10 games. I mean, he's the story offensively of the whole season. A little blip in the radar for him, but I mean, you're going up against the Rams. Very few teams are going to have a productive game against the Rams. Great game to watch. We wanted to go all the way down to the wire, which is what it did. And you could see how relieved and more relieved than elated Stafford was at the end when the kick went wide. Rams would be relieved to get out of that. We saw McVay in the locker room afterwards. These division matches, I say it all the time, this is the time of the year now where not only the division matches, but even every single game counts from now on. You want to get hot this time of year, late November into December. You want to get everybody healthy because injuries are just going across the board in this league right now. But The Rams are in a good spot. Seahawks are in a great spot too. They're at 7-3. And again, they'll see each other again in probably the second week of January.
Kieran O'Donovan, am I crazy to have looked at this game and thought, in a weird way, I felt that the Seahawks were almost enhanced in my mind, despite losing, because you got 4 turnovers, as Kieran was just mentioning there. A lot of things going wrong for them. Yet they hang in the clinches, they grit it out. I mean, they had a kick to win the game. I mean, it didn't look likely in the conditions that it was going to go over, and it didn't, in fact, deliver for them. But they have that look of the quote-unquote team that nobody wants to meet in the playoffs, that really dangerous wild cards that could upend your season, because they're not only stacked on both sides of the ball, got a head coach who really seems to know what he's doing. They have that kind of gritty mentality, but they have multiple ways to win, and when their backs are to the wall, they're not going to step back.
No, and first off, I'm glad Kieran mentioned that punt into Coffin corner in the at the death, because in a week where there was so many misplaced kicks, that was an absolute thing of beauty. If Raj kicked that into the corner for Munster in the late 2000s, I would have been weeping. But no, look, you've made the exact point that I was going to make, Conor. In that you can create your own narratives after games like this, and we said all along this was going to be a coin flip game. None of us were confident in our picks, and we weren't going to be shocked either way, whatever way it went, unless a team got absolutely blown out. So it did go down to the wire as we expected, and I don't think they've lost any face, the Seahawks, this week. As I said, you create your own narrative. What you need to take away from that is we threw 4 picks. We gave these guys the ball 4 times. That should have been a hammering. That we gave the best team in football, the best offense, a freebie 4 times in a row, and that's not going to happen to Sam Darnold again. That's what you need to be telling Sam Darnold, and that's what he needs to be telling himself. I hope it doesn't happen to him, but and you say to yourself, and we were right there with them. We, as you said, we had to go 99 yards, or not 99 yards, but we had to start on the 1. And again, those kind of kicks aren't going to happen every time you go out in the field. So you can create that atmosphere around, and you can kind of walk around Seattle with your heads held high after that game, because they let the Rams out to a 2-score, an early 2-score lead. And after that, in the first half, they dominated time of possession. They kept the ball away from the Rams, essentially. It was something like 18 minutes to 11, or something along the lines. That was the time of possession in the first half. So in a game where they got a really, really poor start, they fell behind very, very quickly. They methodically worked the ball up the field. And the only thing that was wrong, I think, the only thing that they'll come away with disappointed is that they were hitting 3s instead of 7s. And, you do need to convert more. It can be disappointing when you're getting down the field and you get to that red zone and then you get stopped. But a 2-point loss or 1-point loss is absolutely, it's nothing to be ashamed of against the Rams. And this is the first game of a trilogy. It's very hard to see any other outcome than these two going at it again in the playoffs. So no, it's excited for what's to come.
And Boyle, if you create your own narrative, the 49ers are in the funny position for them over the last few years, when they've been a juggernaut of being the underdog, and they've been so injury plagued, even by their snake-bitten standards of the last couple of seasons. But they got Brock Purdy back. They've got George Kittle back over the last couple of weeks. And while they're still depleted on defense and just about hanging in there, they are very, very dangerous. We saw them get opened up by the Rams last week, but most of those middle order teams, they look like taken care of, and you write off the Niners at your peril.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's writing the Niners off right now. Like you said, Purdy's back, his first game since late September. And it was just like Purdy of old, 3 touchdowns, 19-26, 200 yards and change, and throwing the ball straight away to Kittle and getting the Niners on the front foot right away. That's the perfect game that the Niners needed yesterday, going up against a Cards team who, for all intents and purposes, I don't want to say they're throwing the towel in, but I mean, it's looking grim in Arizona. But it's what they needed. It's what the 49ers needed. Get everybody going. Get the offense going again. Get Kittle back in the groove. Get Purdy back in the groove again. He's missed nearly 2 months now. Get him back healthy. Keep him healthy into December and hopefully into January for them. The defense still worries me. I think they've taken a lot of hits on defense. They're going to have to put up probably 25 to 30 to stay in it. If it gets to the playoffs. But, you got McCaffrey. You've always got a chance with McCaffrey. 81 on the ground, 40 receiving with a touchdown. Juwan Jennings with 54 yards. I mean, it was a classic Purdy game, a classic McCaffrey game, and a classic a classic Kittle game. You put all those three components together, and you've always got a chance. Add those little couple of pieces around them. I'm still not fully convinced that the defense is going to be able to hold up. But when you go up against the Cards, I mean, this game,
they looked shaky yesterday. It was a couple of times. You know, they get a couple of takeaways, and it kind of keeps them clean or papers over some of the cracks. But they got badly exposed. The secondaries really getting pulled apart at times.
Yes, the secondaries are taking the beating across the league, and the Niners were no different yesterday. But this was just the stats from this game were bizarre. Brissett threw the ball 57 times. 47 completions. That's an insane stat for a team that only put up
NFL record.
Yeah, for a team that only put up 22 points. I mean, he threw around to McBride. But the other thing with the Cards, I mean, I say that some teams. I talked earlier about the Browns who are staying competitive and staying relevant and staying in games. The Cards gave up 17 penalties for 130 yards. That is just at this stage of the season. That's the stuff that you iron out in preseason games. I mean, offsides, false starts. Unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike. I mean, you can't do that.
You're basically saying to the offense, never mind your Christian McCaffrey, we'll just hand you another Christian McCaffrey worth of yardage there.
Yeah, it's insane. 130 yards they gave to the Niners. That's between that stat and Brissett's stat, just a bananas game. And the fact that they only got 22 points out of Brissett throwing the ball. Again, more credit to Brissett. It makes him look all the better. Another week of him. Maybe putting, I think Kyler Murray's done in Arizona, but maybe putting his foot in the door for a starting position for next year. The Cards are a disaster. I mean, they threw the ball. They threw 452 yards, but all the penalties is crazy. The defense is shut out. The Niners. That's your get right game. That's your let's get some confidence, get some points, get some stats, start feeling good, spread the ball around, get everybody feeling good, get Kittle back hype, and that's exactly what it was. Weather was beautiful and it was just a game that the Niners were just going to make sure that they made the most of it. Get Purdy feeling good about himself. The Cards are not relevant right now. That's a team that's downtrodden and not going to be relevant for quite a while. But again, now there's the 49ers are 7-4. We talked about the Chiefs. They're still in it. The 49ers are definitely still in it. I mean, that NFC West is beautiful this year. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal once it all comes down because the Niners, I mean, everyone talks about the Rams and the Seahawks. The Niners are right there. I mean, they're not putting their hand up. They're just chilling. I mean, they've got Carolina next week. That's another not easy, but that's another winnable game to add.
It's
to the
hard
record.
not to see this team or this division sending three teams to the playoffs. Like I don't know who you write off apart from the Cardinals out of that division. Like you can see this, either the Seahawks or the Rams are going to win it. Mm-hmm. Whoever finishes second is probably going to get the wild card, and you wouldn't rule the Niners out of a wild card either. No. If they surely haven't ruled out second or even contending for the division at this point. To be fair,
right? They have 6 more games. 3 more wins might do it for them. That might get them in the door. So. The 49ers, it's all about getting healthy, make a run, maybe surprise some people. There's always going to be that team. I mean, the Giants of 2011 are that team that everyone looks to. Get hot at the right time, win 4 games. It's doable. So the Niners, they're right there where they want to be right now after all the injuries, and still absolutely in it still.
Kieran O'Donovan, we haven't forgotten about the Packers of 2010 who needed to run the schedule, run the table to get to the playoffs before ultimately winning it all. They're just as good a paradigm for what's possible at this time of year. Packers are not in that position now. They're looking reasonably healthy as far as the standings are concerned. Obviously, they'd like to be on top of the NFC North rather than looking up at it. But they're there or thereabouts. They're where they need to be, largely speaking. But I'm looking at that offense and I'm looking at Matt LaFleur, and I can't help but think about that Father Ted episode where there's a dent in the car. Father Ted discussed to tap it out. I just give it a little tap the other way. He's hitting the car with a little hammer and it pulls back, and eventually he's just destroyed the car. Like Matt LaFleur is tapping that offense this way and that way, but it's not working.
So at some point, Matt LaFleur is going to turn around and say, I thought I had it back there. That's almost the perfect analogy. I can't beat that. But yeah, look, Packers get the win, but another nervy, tentative one. And the story of this game, and this is the problem. There seems to be a different story every game with the Packers as to why they can't put it all together. The story this time was the the defense couldn't get off the field, and on both sides of the ball, the receivers, and I'm including the DBs, they couldn't catch it. They had about 3 or 4 chances to pick off Jameis before they finally did, and put some daylight between the teams. And on the other side, I mean, Jordan Love on paper didn't have a good game. I mean, if you look at his box score, but actually you could probably credit him with another 150 yards through the air if the receivers could just catch the ball. I'd imagine the whatever adjusted stats will come out will not lay any kind of blame on Jordan Love for the fact that this game was close. You had Romeo Doubs missing 2 easy catches in the open field. You had Fitzpatrick, backup tight end, leaving one on the line or leaving one down. And then when it came to it, the Packers just had to throw the shackles off, and it ended up with Jordan Love throwing some sky balls, hit and hope shots, and the bigger receivers, Christian Watson. I can't think of was it Savion Williams getting up and catching a couple of massive catches, including Christian Watson's second touchdown, I think 17-yard grab. You had Malik Willis coming in and playing another really nice cameo role. I'd argue he's one of the best backups in football, and certainly worth a starting role. There's so many starting roles that seem to be
did a great job last year when Love went down, and was probably the unsung hero of making sure the Packers actually made the playoffs, because those wins ultimately were vital. Yeah,
and a lot of people are saying probably a reason that Jordan Love rushed himself back as well, because he didn't want to he didn't want to be on the sideline watching this guy win games for the Packers. But look, that is a plus. One take I had on last night is the fact that Josh Jacobs went out in the middle of the game. A knee injury that hopefully isn't going to be too serious. They reckon it's not going to be season ending. But there was a certain part of me that thought, okay, now we're going to see what Jordan Love can do. And in one sense, it did kind of throw the shackles off, and he was able to express himself a little bit more, because I think a lot of the knock on LaFleur at the moment is he's too predictable and too run heavy. And again, I go back to Craig's point last week that he looks like a guy who can't get out of his own way. Every time the camera panned to Matt LaFleur last night, he seemed to be under pressure. He did not look like a guy that would instill confidence. Yeah, he was there. He was banging on the car, but. Yeah, look, I mean, it ended how it ended. They inevitably got that pick on Jameis, and I'll leave that to Kieran to dissect the Giants' performance. But with all due respect to the Giants, they've just been so banged up. That was a game that the Packers should have won going away last night. If they want to establish their credentials as a Super Bowl contender. But the other thing that gives them hope is you got the Lions slipping up. The Bears are in contention, but nobody is running away, and it's going to be an excellent division. You guys have talked about the 49ers. I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's going to be room for 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to fall that way. I think the 49ers are going to get in,
and they're all going to take games off each other.
Yeah,
the Packers play the Bears twice. The Bears still have to play the Lions. Like they're going to take games off each other. There's no two ways about it. I just don't. Yeah, to your point, I can't see 3 teams coming out of the NFC North.
Yeah, and it's Vikings, Bears, Lions. I think are next 3 up for the Packers, and if they don't take 2 of them. Hard to see them being in contention to win the division, and it'd be a really, really tough push to make the playoffs. But again, look, that's the time. This is the time of year it gets interesting. We're all scratching our heads doing the maths, and we're creating hypothetical wins and losses in our head, and that's why we love it. So we look forward to the next couple of weeks.
We also love the game, Kieran Boyle, because Jameis Winston plays it. Like, how can you not have a smile on your face watching this dude? He's just Bessemer, Alabama's finest.
Bessemer, Alabama. Jameis is a gent. When we were over there, he had a lot of time. We were in the locker room, and he had a lot of time for us. I just got a quick snippet with him, but he was, was talking to him for a couple of minutes about his time in college and how the year's gone so far. A gentleman gave his time, so always have a soft spot for Jameis, even when he was back with FSU with his antics down there too. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? What can you say? I mean, Jameis is what he is. I mean, he's entertaining. He's going to throw. He's going to throw a couple of touchdowns, but he's also going to throw a bunch of picks, and that's what happened right at the end. Your typical Giants game, we take the lead and then manage to blow it. There was no point, or I mean, there was no real time in that game. I thought we were going to win. I mean, the Packers are just more talented overall. The great story for me, or the great kind of consolation for me, is watching Burns on defense, and Andrew Thomas at left tackle. Andrew Thomas, I think I posted up on our page earlier on a clip of Andrew Thomas just absolutely manhandling Micah Parsons. If you get a chance, watch some tape on Andrew Thomas. He might be the best left tackle in the game, and I hope to God he stays healthy for next year. There's no point in really worrying about his performance this year, but him and Burns are really the bright stars for this Giants team. I mean, the whole organization's a mess from top to bottom. They need somebody to come from the outside and just say, "You're gone, you're gone, you're gone, out, out, out." There's very few. I mean, we had this vaunted defense they talked about, and now we get the news that Abdul Carter is pulling a Lawrence Taylor from the old days, falling asleep in the rooms. He's getting slated on New York media today. I mean, he hasn't earned any right to do that right now, and he's almost defending himself on social media, which is making it worse. So that's a horrible look for the rookie. The defense is awful. Their phrase we have here is a day late and the buck short, that they just can't get to anybody by the time they get to anybody. And you saw that throw, the third down, it was 3rd and 10 yesterday. And they all rushed Jordan Love. By the time they even sniffed him, he had released the ball and he was setting them up for the touchdown. So it's grim times for the Giants. Jameis gave a little bit of kind of frivolity and a little bit of happiness to the fans. Good to see him out there. He still loves the game, but this organization's a mess from top to bottom. Shane Bowen is still a job. I have no idea why. Singletary ran the ball pretty well, so we'll give him that. But this organization, I mean, I've seen bad years year on year, but it's awful right now. And what gives me solace is with the Shane situation. A lot of people are saying, why is he still there? If we remember last year, what happened with Balky when they were going after coaches, and all the head coaches were like, nope, I can't work with this dude. And then by the time it got to Cohen, Balky had gone because Khan had seen that he can't get his premier coaches because they don't want to work with this guy. It's going to be the same way. Nobody's going to want to work with Shane right now. He's throwing people under the bus. He's taking credit for things he didn't do, especially with the Jackson Dart thing. So I think there's a lot of drama around the Giants right now. There's going to be a huge amount of drama come January 5th when it's Black Monday. I'm hopeful for next year, but right now there's no point in even winning games. There's a huge amount of work that needs done on the defense, the O-line, the secondary. I mean, across the board. The only good thing is we have a quarterback, so we don't have to worry about that part. So let's just get these games over with. There's 6 more games to go. Let's just endure them and move on to the draft and wish for better times.
One of the guys being tapped up for that head coaching job, Kieran Donovan, potentially, is Jeff Hafley, who gets a lot of honourable mentions for what he's done with the Packers defense. He's a New Yorker as well, grew up as a Giants fan, so that story writes itself potentially. Yeah,
and I heard a lot of interesting talk during the week as to whether this might be, in fact, a precursor to a job interview for Jeff Hafley. And I was just interested to hear Kieran's take on whether or not that'd be an interesting prospect for the Giants fans. And the question asked was, is the Giants' job a coveted job? And I would argue, like, of course it is. Look, every head coaching job is a coveted job for a potential head coach. But as negative as tough as this season has been for the Giants fans, we've seen it through Kieran, Brian, and Craig on this show. It's the Giants are well represented on the Irish NFL show, but you still have the nucleus of a really talented team, and if the right coach goes in here, I mean, you've got, as you said, you've got the answer at quarterback, you've got a decent, really more than decent running back. You do have talent, massive talent on defense. A potentially excellent pass rush. One of the best wide receivers in the game in Malik Neighbors, potentially. Again, look, it's all potential, but if the right coach goes in there, you'd imagine it could unlock a lot of that. And I was just interested to hear Kieran's take on whether Jeff Hafley would be an exciting prospect in New York.
I mean, he's not going to excite anybody, I'll be honest with you. I mean, coordinators, the last 4 head coaches have been coordinators, and it would be madness if the Giants went for another coordinator. They've got to get a head coach and just surround that head coach with assistants and coordinators that can just run the show. I mean, for some reason, Mike McCarthy's been played around. I don't see that at all. Gruden has been talked about. He's suing the league right now, so I don't see that happening. I will say, and there's been a little bit more whispers about it, and I think I might have mentioned it last week. Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame, if they go on a run and either get to the championship game or win the whole thing, that might be his into the league, because he's young, he's dynamic, he hasn't put a foot wrong in the college game. The only thing is, it's the college game. Now we've seen a lot of head coaches come from the college game and interchange between Harbaugh and the guy in the Raiders. I forget it. I'm losing his name right now. But they are interchangeable, so that's a name to look out for. But I think the Giants are going to go for a head coach, someone who's proven it, and just surround them with coordinators. The McCarthy name doesn't excite me at all, but there's not a huge amount. Lou Anarumo, maybe he's a guy from Staten Island. He could be a possibility, but I can't see them going for another coordinator. It has to be a head coach with experience. So, but again, we'll see what the Brass do, and if the Maras stay out of it, and if they manage to kind of put it out the tender and see who they can get.
But Kieran Boyle, where there's life, there's hope. And even your incompetent front office and terribly run team can stumble their way into hiring a sexy offensive coordinator, an absolute savant, beautiful man like Ben Johnson, who puts the Bears on top of the NFC North. It's all going to go tragically wrong over the next couple of weeks. But right now they're 7-3. And despite their best efforts, Kieran O'Donovan, they just cannot lose. They cough up 13-point leads. They go 2 scores in front. They let the other team back in, and yet they find a way to win. A Devin Duvernay 56-yard kickoff return from the death puts them in field goal range, and Cairo Santos, who had missed an earlier chip shot field goal, gets the win for the Bears yet again with a walk-off field goal.
I read the explanation for it today, and it's just I couldn't believe I hadn't thought of it before. It's ever since the Bears became the Pope's favorite team. They just can't can't lose these games. It's unbelievable. But look, another one of these games that it doesn't jump off the page in terms of stats. I mean, they didn't light it up in the scoreboard. Another game where Caleb wasn't incredible, but he did exactly what he had to do. Bears looked absolutely in control of this game throughout, and then the Vikings got it going with some late connections between McCarthy and Addison. Got the go ahead touchdown, and Bears go up the field and get the win at the end. The Bears are really establishing themselves as they're leading the division. They're leading the NFC North at the moment. Whether the bookies would call them front runners or not, I'm not too sure. I think the Lions would probably still hold that title.
Yet again, we're still kind of looking at them going, I'm not sure. I said, that this was a must-win game, that if they had any ambitions of making the playoffs, they absolutely had to win this because they haven't beaten anyone.
Yeah.
But the way they did it makes you think, well, I still don't know. Let me go and see them. Let me see them go against a really good team and see can they do it.
And that's what's intriguing again about this division, because none of these teams, when the Lions have maybe fallen back a little bit, the Packers have seemed to, as I've said, different problems every week. With the Bears,
this Vikings team beat the Lions last week, and they can only put up 17 points, and they go down at home this week. You just don't know what you're going to get in the NFC North.
Yeah, but with the Bears, it just comes down to that. They're winning, and that's it. They're winning these games, and they're finding ways to do it. We talked about the intricacies of their offensive line. They've got a really, really stout defense. They've got a talented quarterback who, again, I think is probably gaining a little bit more confidence in Bears fans as weeks go on. If not, again, I don't think he's shown himself to be an absolute stud from start to finish in any game. But you can see that the physical talent is there.
I'm not sure either, Kieran Boyle. I want to bring you in on this because you talked about this before the Bears even drafted him. I'm not sure if he necessarily validated or did anything to dissuade people from the opinion that is quite widely held in Chicago that he doesn't look like much of a leader of men. I mean, if they had lost that game, which they looked damn close to doing, I think there would have been a lot of questions asked about his sideline demeanor, the way he spoke to some of the players around him, even the way he was when he walked off the pitch. It was not the most classy or graceful performance from a quarterback.
No, and he still leaves a lot of questions for people out there. The last couple of games, he's been, you're waiting for that performance where he just wows everybody, just stands in the pocket, just blazes the ball left, right, and center, gets everybody involved. But you're right. It's still, you're not quite sure. Is he the guy that's going to be the leader? Is Ben Johnson even feeling that? It was I don't know. It was a meh kind of performance from him. And listen, we've talked about teams with defenses. I mean, the Bears defense yesterday, good Lord. I mean, that they almost take the story away from Williams. I mean, But you're right. It's the demeanor.
Just as you mentioned it, sorry, I loved this clip, and you pointed it out, Kieran O'Donovan. Shout out to you for picking it up and putting it in the document earlier. And I went back and rewatched it again. The interception in the end zone by Nahshon Wright, where he high points the ball, it's an amazing defensive play. He catches the ball, he comes down, and he just takes a knee and is in tears on the end line because he's remembering his coach John Beam, who people will remember from Last Chance U, who was unfortunately and tragically fatally shot this week in a senseless act of violence, and a very touching tribute by Nahshon Wright, who was coached at Laney by John Beam.
Yeah, and it was a poignant moment, and you saw it live, and I didn't know what was going on at the start. It was Red Zone actually came back to it, and Red Zone pointed it out. So shout out to Scott Hansen for informing us and educating us. But yeah, look, an absolute tragedy. And how often do you see players off the back of these emotional traumas, whether it's been a personal incident, or go out and absolutely harness that into something special on the field, and shout out to the player for being present enough to be in that moment, and to be able to, as I said, harness that energy and turn it into something positive on the pitch. Just a really nice moment, and again, helped, was hugely instrumental in the Bears getting that win. And on the other side of the ball, I think when we talk about the NFC North, you look at the Vikings and JJ McCarthy and his numbers, and while what Caleb Williams may not have in terms of being a leader of men, JJ McCarthy certainly looks like a guy who does have that, but it's the polished precision. And there was another clip on the sideline of Justin Jefferson coming off, a guy who tends to handle himself very, very well. He looked hugely frustrated at times coming off, and would you have thought that a guy like Justin Jefferson would be dreaming of days with Sam Darnold throwing him dimes? But I think the Vikings, whatever you say about the other three teams, I think the Vikings are the team that are going to fall short. And while they might have a say in the division in terms of taking a win or two off the teams that are in contention, I don't think they're going to rack up enough to give themselves a shout.
I think the Vikings right now, but they have a big problem right now. We all know they passed over a lot of those quarterbacks. While Caleb seems to be progressing, however slightly and however slowly it may be, McCarthy's regressing. I mean, it's there's nothing going right now. The numbers aren't great. Completion rate's not great. The accuracy's not great. I mean, this is a guy who Harbaugh had him in college in Michigan, and for whatever reason didn't trust his arm. McCarthy only threw the ball 10 times in the national championship game. They won. Michigan won the game, but he only threw the ball 10 times. And for that entire season, whatever Harbaugh saw, he maybe didn't trust him. I don't know if O'Connell is completely sold on JJ McCarthy right now. We've seen a couple of flashes of it. The next 6 weeks are going to be critical for the Vikings and for McCarthy, because we've seen in the league, quarterbacks are the lifeblood of head coaches, and I haven't really seen anything from McCarthy. I thought I'd give him a couple more weeks, but yesterday was just not there. I mean, he was getting smacked around by the Bears D, but the numbers aren't great. 130 yards, 2 interceptions, 16 of 32. It's tough for obviously we just mentioned Jefferson being frustrated. I think the whole team is kind of looking around and saying, listen, we got the defense on lock. We got Van Ginkel just bullying people. We got everyone out there. Josh Metellus, 11 tackles yesterday. Dallas Turner, Blake Cashman at 15 tackles. The defense is taking care of all of that what they need to do. But there's big problems right now with Minnesota McCarthy. I'm not sure if he's the man going forward. So keep an eye on that.
I tell you who very much is the man, Kieran O'Donovan, is Josh Allen, who threw, incidentally, at the start of the game against the Bucs, which was a very entertaining contest, ultimately won by Buffalo 44-32. He threw one of the worst interceptions I've seen in a long time, out of his own end zone, trying to avoid a sack for a safety. He just throws the ball straight to a Bucs defender about 5 yards out. Miraculously, they managed to hold out and only concede a field goal on that one. But after that unpromising start, he then takes over. It was effectively, if you want to boil it down and be reductive about it, Josh Allen on one side versus Sean Tucker on the other, who scored a hat-trick of touchdowns for the Bucs. But the Josh Allen show was ultimately the one that would prevail. it's hard to beat 3 touchdowns in the air and another 3 on the ground.
Yeah, and I started off taking my notes early on in the game when Josh Allen threw that pick, and he had another few shaky throws as well. I was thinking, oh my God, like this is really a regression on Josh Allen's part. He's going back, you know, if you think about last week, he's going back to the old Josh Allen who was trying to play hero ball. And I actually typed out Josh Allen trying to play hero ball. And thereafter, Josh Allen played hero ball and was an absolute hero for the rest of the game because his numbers were incredible. As you said, look, he threw for 317 yards and accounted for 6 touchdowns. In the absence of arguably their top receiver, Keon Coleman, Terrell Shavers comes in, 4 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown and some absolute, you know, dimes and a huge. I think Shavers had another big run after the catch as well. Really helped to pad Josh Allen's stats. But yeah, in a season where a lot of the early front runners for MVP, unlikely front runners, albeit, you know, with the likes of Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, now having these kind of leveling games, if you want to call them that. It's Josh Allen now again who's coming to the fore, and on the other side of the ball, you had Baker Mayfield, another guy who we were singing his praises. He's just cooled off on his stats. I mean, he threw for 173 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So again, he didn't jump off the page, but as you said, Sean Tucker was had a huge night. There were 9 lead changes. It was never more than a 1-score game. It was tit for tat, all night. It was what we hoped this game would be. And it was just, you know, that's where you love watching football. It was game of the weekend. It was absolutely excellent. And just a quick point on the Bucs, who maybe we've been sleeping on one point, is we said that this game didn't mean a whole lot for the Bucs because they seem to be on cruise control for the division. The Panthers are sneaking up. The Panthers are starting to apply some sneaky pressure, and they're showing consistency, and they're beating teams that they're not supposed to beat. And the Bucs mightn't have it all their own way for the rest of the season. Now, I still expect them to eke it out, but they'd want to be winning some of these close games.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that coming. If you want to see what's coming this weekend, check out the AV Club on Wednesday. Our Thursday night preview show will be available on Wednesday morning as well. And we're back with another live preview show on Thursday night at 9 o'clock, where we look ahead to the Week 12 games on the Irish NFL Show. Nice.